So I briefly, before I go into the details of what's going on, what's happening underground right now, just briefly to let you know that our work, our organization's work, I really generalize and categorize into two parts or two sections. One, before advent of ISIS on the scene on June 10th of last year, and the other type of work that we are doing now is after June 10th, 2014. So before June 10th, 2014, and since we were established in late 2009, our purpose was to support the advocacy work that was being done in D.C. at that time by Mr. Maybe some of you are familiar with him, Michael Uesh, and he was the director of the Iraqi Sustainable Democracy Project. And at the same time, to support the work that the Assyrian Democratic Movement was doing on the ground in Iraq, in support of the Constitution and trying to get our some of our political rights and civil rights through the Constitution and constitutional process, and the establishment of a province as part of the new provinces that were recommended to be established in Iraq, with a total of 5 provinces. So we were doing that type of work, and also we're bringing to congressional attention, congressional office attention, the disputes or the land grab that the KRG was doing against our people and lands in the area under their control. So we will bring that under to their attention. But after June 10th, 2014, our work, the type of work we were doing, changed. We went into a crisis mode. So after June 10th, although Assyrian Aid Society, which is the largest humanitarian organization that we have, was already established and seasoned and all that, but it was mostly the type of work they were doing was in support of our schools. We had about 60 or 70 schools in the northern area, northern part of the country, that teaches in Aramaic or Syriac language, which is a very old language that we still speak, and that even at home I speak it here at my house. So we would teach. These schools teach all the subjects in this language. So we had done a revival of the language, and we had established these schools after 1991. So this Assyrian Aid Society has shifted its focus from humanitarian aid, because truly there was not much aid needed. There were not too many displaced people left. Either they had left the country or they were already settled back into their homes. So we needed to help assist this organization to deliver immediate humanitarian aid. So what we did was we met with congressional offices, we met with humanitarian organizations, and also we met with the United Nations and the different missions of the United Nations. Actually, we met with 4 of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council and asked for international protection for our areas in the Nineveh Plain region. The reason that we asked for the international protection, because we all know what happened to the Iraqi military, and then we were hoping that the Kurdish Peshmerga would actually stand and fight. At least at that time, they did not. They fled the scene, left their weapons, and fled the Nineveh Plain. And ISIS was very, very close to Erbil, and if it wasn't for U.S. and allies, striking them from the air, then they would, probably would have taken Erbil as well. So we realized that we truly cannot depend on the Iraqi military, which I refer to as a big Shiite militia, because when it's a military of a country, then everybody, it will reflect on people joining from different, different parts of the society, like Arabs, Sunni Arabs, or Kurds, or Christians. But the majority of the Iraqi military is from the Shiite sect. And the Peshmerga, at the same time, it was all Kurdish. There were no Assyrians. There were no Assyrians or Christians who were allowed to be part of that Peshmerga at that time. So we said, okay, we need to get to humanitarian aid to our people, and we asked the United Nations to intervene, and actually we asked if we can place the UN flag over the camps of the internally displaced people so that we will deal directly, or the United Nations will deal directly with us, because it has been our experience that aid in previous years, aid from the United States or aid from international entities would come to us, earmarked for us. The majority of it would not reach us because they were dealing either with the Baghdad government or with the KRG, and there's a lot of, I'm not going to, just aid would not get to us as it was supposed to get. And we made them aware, we made the different agencies at the UN aware of this fact, and we also expressed the same to these international organizations that were helping. So we decided, I think it was September or mid-September, that we need to take matters into our own hands and establish a security force that would help or secure the area and actually give the people back faith and that they can go back to their villages, to their towns, and to their homes. So we started supporting the Assyrian Democratic Movement and called on the Assyrian Democratic Movement to establish the Nineveh Plain protection units. Now, we did not want to start another, political party militia or a sectarian militia. So what we asked and we got actually was the formation of truly a local force that represents or draws its members from the people that are living or they used to live in the Nineveh Plain region. So they could be Yazidis, could be Assyrian Christians, or even Shabak Shiites. Now, we've come a long way since then. The first training camp started, as a matter of fact, this past Sunday. There was training being done at local villages in the Nineveh Plain that are still under our control, in the Al-Qush region and another Al-Qush town and another small town, I forgot its name. But now an official training camp has started at a PUK facility, which is part of the KRG Peshmerga, but it was given to us with the approval of U.S. consulate and the military attaché there, who's responsible for all the operations. I don't know his name, for all the operations in northern Iraq against ISIS. So that is that's being done now. There are a group of volunteers. There are American volunteers that are training these young men, and they're only men at this time. And also, we went into a contractual agreement. Our organization is the American Muslim organization with one of the best security companies, U.S. security companies. And as a matter of fact, they are now on their way, should be landing in Erbil by tomorrow, local time. So the company will be training let's say, maybe a special units or special forces out of these. The total number of the first, this division is 570 young men. So this is the situation right now, and hopefully our young men, the Nineveh Plain Protection Unit, will take part, also participate in the liberation of Mosul when that campaign starts, and I think it will start probably in late March, early April.
So, David, I'm going to go ahead and take the moderator's prerogative, as it were, and take the first question. So you alluded to some of the Nineveh Plains protection units. I myself have seen them mentioned in the news, and you did mention that there is a possibility that they will be involved with the liberation of Mosul once that occurs. So as I think many of our listeners have probably been reading, there has been some news as to the fact that the ISIS advance has supposedly been somewhat blunted, and that eventually the coalition will start going on the offensive against them to liberate places such as Mosul, or so we're being told so far. Right. So I guess what my question would be, in particular to the Nineveh Plains protection units, if you could maybe just elaborate a little bit more as to how much American involvement there has been, how much congressional involvement with the protection units there has been, and actually I'd be interested to also know if there's been any coordination with the other coalition groups or any other units in the area in order to kind of help centralize this process, because I think one issue that we've been hearing a lot, at least in my research, is that there has been an issue as far as coordinating a lot of these groups who are fighting ISIS. So if you could maybe just speak on that, I'd very much appreciate it. Okay.
Very good. Yes. The MPU has not taken. They have not taken part in any fighting yet because they're simply not trained. I think personally that the liberation of Mosul will begin after Nowruz, or the Kurdish/Persian New Year of March 21st. First of all, because the winter, and secondly, the Sunni tribesmen are not ready yet. They're still being trained and equipped, and there's a force of about 10,000 of them that is being trained in different camps controlled by the KRG. And they've been trained by Americans and as well as Iraqi military. Yes, we would. I think the Assyrian, the Nineveh Plain Protection Units will participate in the liberation of Mosul. They have to, because these are our areas that are under control of ISIS, and I'm not aware of any issues as far as coordinating in the fight against ISIS. I know there were some issues between the KDP and the PKK when Sinjar was liberated, because the Kurdish PKK had fighters there and they're supporting the Yazidis, and there were some disputes between them, but I'm not aware of any other issues. I think there is very good cooperation between the Iraqi military and the Kurdish Peshmerga in areas where they both had campaigns against ISIS. So I just want to add also, as far as the other part of your question, there has not been really any congressional support so far. In the budget that was the Department of Defense budget for 2015, there was $1.6 billion allocated for the Iraq training and equipping fund. Out of this 1.6 billion, there is not a single penny allocated for us or the Nineveh Plain Protection Unit. The 1.24 something billion is going to the Iraqi military. 330 some million is going to the Kurdish Peshmerga, and 24 million of that is going to the local tribesmen, the Sunni tribesmen, the force that is being put together. So nothing has been allocated to us. Now, I should add that former Congressman Wolf is now has been there for a few days now in northern Iraq, and he was a guest of the Assyrian Democratic Movement, and he witnessed the beginning of the training of the MPU. So he will be coming back and actually telling us more about what he has seen, in the near future. My wife is Assyrian as well. They're very, I mean, we're Christian. The vast majority, of course, they're Christians, unless some people have converted into other religions. But most of the society is, practicing Christians. They're the Assyrian women very strong, strong-willed. They are and I mean this, they are the backbone of the household. They tend to be educated. We see a lot of them also that are business owners, professionals. So we really depend, as a society, depend on the women, and there will be women fighters, Assyrian women fighters, as part of the NPU in the coming months, if not weeks. So as a second wave, maybe. As far as the way I see it, I really don't think that the Iraq before June 10th the Iraq that will emerge will not be similar to the one before June 10th. I don't think the Constitution will stay the same. It will be definitely modified. I think the KRG will ask for a confederation with Iraq as just to stay as part of one country. I truly believe that there will be and there should be other regions formed. We are asking for a province, the Nineveh Plain province, and I'm not going to lie about it or hide it, but our ultimate goal is to create an Assyria region government, just like the KRG. So create the ARG, and in that region we have the Yazidis, which we are very close to. We have common ancestry with the Yazidis. We've never killed each other. They're very peaceful people, and we are as well. So we've lived, in peace and harmony with each other, and we have no issues with the Shabaks, who are Shiites, and we also have no issues with any Arabs that are there in the area or Kurds. So this is ultimately, I see, although Iraq, I don't see different countries emerging out of Iraq, but I truly see that internal borders will be drawn, and maybe a very loose system of confederation, but to keep the country together.
Yes, thank you. I'm Stephen Graber, and I'm on the EMET board. And one of the things that we have, I'm an attorney, we have worked closely with many organizations in monitoring and drafting legislation that would be hurdles for Sharia law being implemented in our own country. And we're all fairly painfully aware that the program for ISIS does not terminate in the Middle East. In fact, it has a much broader application under their game plan. And I'm just asking the question: are you doing any monitoring? Are you looking at anything that's happening in the United States or the Western Hemisphere regarding ISIS activity? And if so, what can you share? What would you be able to share with us?
Well, I personally, yes, I track. I'm fluent in Arabic. Arabic actually is my second language. So I've been studying Islam. I'm 55 years old. I've been studying Islam for the last, 25 years. Yes, I do monitor it personally. I think, but our focus as an organization is on Iraq and Syria. We would not go openly against any Sharia law and stuff like that happening in the West, because there are other people doing it. We do get involved on certain levels because we also are part of Mashriq, Middle East Christian Committee, and they do monitor the Muslim Brotherhood's activities in the United States and the West. So that we contribute some, a little bit to that, and we're part of, as I said, as Mashriq, and Dr. Walid Faris is one of our advisors. So yeah, at that level, yes, we do.
I do. I'm particularly curious with the comment you made, I believe, in the question before this one, regarding the future of Iraq. There's been a lot of talk about exactly what the conclusions will be. A lot of people, of course, are mentioning the Constitution, how that might be redrawn. But you seem to allude to the idea of perhaps some confederation of sort being created. Now, I think that, the way it's looking right now, it would be very difficult to not expect the Kurdish regional government to want to, have a sort of greater independence, and of course for the Assyrians and Yazidis as well, and whomever else may be interested in doing so. So basically, I guess what my question is how do you see this kind of, if such a confederation were to exist, are we talking about perhaps some sort of loose confederation along the lines of what we might see in the UAE, or is it going to be something where it's going to be perhaps even less federated and more loosely based than that? Because obviously, I think one of the issues we see with Iraq is it's just such a diverse place with so many different groups of people, and I think a lot of people historically are perhaps not even aware that the borders of Iraq are not exactly aligned with where the groups of people live. So if you could perhaps just elaborate on that, I'd really appreciate that.
Sure. I really think, look, if we take the case of the Kurds, for example, the KRG, they have everything they want. First of all, as far as they have their own government. The only thing that they really don't control is the revenue. They don't control directly, but that can be negotiated also, and they're getting 17 to 20% of their share of the budget. The Kurdish language is the official language in Iraq, and business can be conducted with Kurdish or Arabic. Passports are issued in Kurdish and Arabic. They can have representatives in every embassy, and they're basically running running a good portion of the country, if not the whole, almost big chunk of the country. So if they become independent, they will. Right now I look at them as kings in Iraq, and then if they become independent and push for that, they'll be basically at the mercy of the Turks or the Iranians. So I think they have to. The leadership, the Kurdish leadership, has to realize that the problem is the leadership is ultra-nationalist, so there's them staying in Iraq, in a confederated Iraq, perhaps similar to. Like you said, the UAE, or maybe even, you don't have to call them cantons, they're just regions similar to Switzerland. Then it would make sense. The whole world is coming together and creating alliances and unions, and hopefully borders will be totally removed in the future. It just does not make sense to introduce another entity such as a free Kurdistan, and to accomplish what? They have all the freedom that they want. They're ruling themselves. The president of the country is a Kurd. Not the prime minister. The foreign minister at one time was. All the key ministries are in their hands. So, and then remember, the Kurds have many languages or sub-dialects that they don't understand each other, and it's a very tribal society also. So if they form a independent Kurdistan, they're practically, right now they have two administrations, one under the PUK and leadership, and the other one Guran, and the other one under KDP. So what guarantees do we have that they will stay as a stable entity, if there is an independent country as Kurdistan and northern Iraq. And then with that, it will destabilize the region, the Turkish areas, and also the Iranian parts of the Kurdistan and the Syrian part. So it'll be I think even a bigger mess. But a confederated Iraq, where the two main ethnic groups, the Arabs and the Kurds, have some sort of confederation, but the same rights are granted to others. So if the Constitution is written in such a way that regions are formed, then others should have the right to form regions. Just like the Article 140 about the because of the demographic change that Saddam's regime did over several decades. So Article 140 was put there so that this will remedy these situations. But the KRG took it as if Article 140 was only written for the Kurds, because only they have disputes with the Arabs, and that's incorrect. The Article 140 was written for all citizens of Iraq, and we have also areas that have been taken over by Kurds or under the control of the KRG, and we want these returned, just like, so we're asking for implementation of Article 140 also. So a confederated Iraq makes a lot of sense for different ethnicities and different sects to live together within the borders of one country, but they should be definitely internal borders. For example, a Shiite wants to implement Sharia law and marry his daughter off at 9 years old, cannot impose that on me and my daughter. So, or same thing with Sunni, so these. If they want to live by Sharia law, let them live in their own areas by Sharia law, and we live in our areas according to normal or civilized laws. If the Kurds want to teach Kurdish or they want to raise a Kurdish flag over their areas, no problem with that. If they want, I honestly don't know. I don't know what the type of training they're doing. It's not only volunteers; it's volunteers plus a security company as a profession. But the security company they haven't started yet. They actually on their way there and should be there by tomorrow. Equipment, whatever equipment there is at the camp, these equipment stays at the camp. It cannot be taken out. So that's what the KRG is providing, after the instructions, directions of the American military command there, but we're paying for everything as far as the clothes, the meals, and everything else. So we meaning this money is being raised from diaspora, but through our initiative. The Restore Nineveh Now initiative, which is part of our organization's initiative, American Restoration Organization. Right. Well, there are issues. We have issues with the KRG, and they say that this is all because the aid was not getting to us because of the budget problem they were having with Baghdad, but that's not true, completely true. They were having budget problem with Baghdad maybe last year, or for maybe a year or a year and a half. Well, we were having issues with the budget before. I mean, they were supposed to, for example, I'll give you a small example. Just amounts are trivial for $300,000 to $700,000 to pay for salaries of teachers at our schools that not the actual teachers that teach during the day, but the extra, the extra curriculum after hours, or the bus drivers, because we had a lot of students in remote areas or remote villages, so we would bus them to the schools. These salaries of these drivers were not paid. and that was many. They finally paid them recently, and they still owe about $300,000. But and there are also land disputes. We have a lot of land owned by Assyrians, taken over by Kurds and the KRG, and nothing has been done. We tried through the courts in Baghdad and in the region, and nothing has happened. And we're gonna take it to a different level. So we're gonna bring these grievances elsewhere. I can't discuss that yet at this time, but we will do this. I have a big file, maybe I don't know, thousands of pages on these land disputes. So we have issues. We have many issues, and the Kurds, or the KRG, I should say, always try to bring the Assyrian, to erase the Assyrian will and make it part of their, under their control by establishing different political parties, establishing, funded by them, establishing media outlets funded by them directly towards us. If they were truly true partners, then they would support the free will of the Assyrian people electing their representative and working through their established organizations and not through political parties that they have established and put together.
Okay, thank you very much. And just as a side note, I would like everybody to know that, EMET does not take any particular sides in any of these issues. We just want to make sure that we bring to light all the issues of all the minority groups in the area. That being said, so David, again, thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future, and we wish you obviously best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you. Goodbye.
Everyone for joining us today.